Jay, you're moving into my time.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm Ron, I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 18, 2006, and I am grateful for that. So, I don't know, like, I have not wanted to do this. I don't know why, and I've never felt this way about telling my story, and I just, like, this last year's been weird. What I've come to know is I need you guys more than I think I do. Like, when I stopped coming here and I was doing Zoom, that wasn't good enough. I came back here and I felt better, but the people that I was used to seeing here weren't here. And that's just messed me up, and I don't know what that is, and I don't know how to get past that. And the truth is I'm good, I just don't think I'm good, and that's, the story of my life. So anyways, I'll get into it and we'll see how this goes. So we'll let God show up sometime in this. So I was born in the Panhandle of Texas, and I grew up in eastern New Mexico. I have an older brother. My parents, actually, in 2 weeks, I'm going up to New Mexico and we're having a big party. My parents are celebrating 62 years of marriage, and my mother's turning 80. So we're going up to do that. It was, I don't know, like my parents don't drink. I was the blessing of that family, but I always felt like a little off. And when I was in school, they give you I guess it was a U, and I don't even know what the positive of the other one was, but I always got an S. Yeah. So I always got the U, and I always and I was always told that I talk too much, I'm disruptive in class. And when I was growing up in New Mexico, like, what you got was licks. Like, you had a choice. When you got in trouble, it was call your parents, or you could get 3 licks. And I was like, oh, give me the licks, because if you call my parents, I'm gonna get in trouble there. And so I got my butt beat from the 1st grade till I dropped out of school in the 10th grade, and that was like a theme for me. I started drinking when I was in the 7th grade, and we had stole some MD 2020. Yeah. I drank it. It was awesome. I drank it, and what I remember is I drank it, I got sick, and I thought I was throwing up blood. And my friends were like, no, that's the MD 2020. But I that started, like, for a long time. I would drink, I would black out, and I would get in trouble. And we had dances in the little town I was in, and I would pass out on the curb. The cops would take me home. Back then, it wasn't like it is now. Like, they weren't calling my parents. I went to a concert in Amarillo, Texas. I got caught with alcohol. They stuck me in a room. They sobered me up and sent me home. And that was, so I was blackout drunk early on in my drinking. And when I would get in trouble, I started running away when I was like 13. And what happened for me is I would run away. My brother would catch me, bring me back, and then I would go for a while. I'd get in trouble again. I'd run away again. And one time I got enough money together to go to Arizona. And so I get on the bus, I'm on my way to Arizona, I get off the bus, and the cops are waiting for me. And they said, hey, are you Ronald Souders? And I said, no. And they said, well, you fit the description. I said, really, what's the description? And they named exactly what I was wearing. I said, nope, hadn't seen him, and I took off running. I don't know what I. So they caught me. They put me in detention. My parents had to come get me, and then I got cut back. I came back home. Well, I ran away. I got caught. We got caught drinking and driving on the strip in Clovis, the main strip. And we were supposed to all show up, and everybody got probation. Well, I had gotten in trouble with my parents. I ran away, and this time I made it to Arizona. And so I missed the probation. And I got to Arizona, I'm 14. I'm like, like I didn't think like ahead, like what do you do? So I'm there for about a month, and then I call my grandmother. I go back and I stay with her, and then I ease myself back into my parents' house, and because I missed the court date, what they told me is I had to go to school, and I had to make C. No less than a C, and I couldn't miss any school, and I was on probation. And so I dropped out of school, didn't make a C, and my parents like smoothed that over and got me out. And my dad and my dad said, if you're going to live in our house, you're going to follow our rules, and you can work. And my dad owned service stations, and so he gave me the key. And for the next 2 years, year and a half, I opened and closed that gas station from 6:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night, Monday through Saturday. And and that's what I did. And then I kept getting in trouble, and my brother was living here in Houston, and my parents thought if I don't get out of there, something bad's going to happen. So I moved here, and that was when I was 16. And I moved here. And I started, I moved here, Victor moved a month later. So, and I'm drinking, I'm passing out, but I have a whole lot of excuses of why I'm blacking out. Like it was like in the beginning, this was like early 80s, 81. I'm wearing this really cool bandana, and we'd be at the bar, and I would pass out. And what I was convinced, and I think I was convinced till I was like 2 years sober, that it was because the bandana was too tight, and I needed to just loosen that up. And so I don't know. So so I'm drinking, I'm passing out, and nobody, like Victor didn't know anything about alcoholism. I didn't know anything about alcoholism. Nobody ever suggested that I just not drink. What the suggestion was, okay, tonight we're gonna eat something. Tonight you go easy does it. Don't drink so fast. Or don't drink tequila. It makes you a little angry. And so I'm trying back then. Everybody around me is trying to help me control and enjoy my drinking, and it just didn't work. I was like, the drinking age was 18. I looked older than I was, and so I'm here right before I turned 18. They change it to 19, and so I go, and then they change it to 21, and so but that didn't stop me. Like Victor's older, and so he's getting carded. I'm never getting carded. It's not a big deal to me. It's like I'm going out, we're going drinking. The people I'm hanging out with, that's what we did, and I felt like I don't know, like we were functioning. But it was a mess, but I didn't know it was a mess, and so I went that way, blacking out until I was like 22, and then I found cocaine, and that solved the blackout problem. So so after that, I never blacked out again, and so so I don't know. So I went on. I sold women's shoes for a while. And then I started a business, and what I know is, like what I say is that I wanted to start a business. What I know is that was coming to an end. Like everything was falling apart on me, and so I started a business. I grew that business, blew that up, started another business, grew that, blew that up, and then got into what I do today. And during that whole time, you know, I would go for. It seemed like the story of my life. Like I would go for a long time, and like muddle along, like get drunk, get in trouble, to clean it up, try to be a good boy for a while. I didn't know that what the book describes as restless, irritable, and discontent. I didn't know what that was, but whenever I would not do something, that's when I would be, I don't know, like just frustrated. And I guess 5 years before I got sober, Mama and Victor, so let me back up. So I guess like me and Victor have been together, I want to say, I don't know, 15, 18 years. He's having a little issue with my drinking and drugging. He's a little irritated. And my grandmother, I'm super close to my grandmother. She lived in New Mexico, in the mountains of New Mexico. And she was getting older. Her husband was older. And we moved them to Tomball. And Victor, y'all who know Victor, loved my grandmother, very caring, and honestly, like I saw that as, ooh, this is this is a good idea. We'll bring my grandmother in. I love my grandmother. I want to help take care of her, but Victor also took care of her, and that kind of gave him something else to focus on besides me, which was like gained me a few more years. And so we're going down the road. What I found out is right there at the end, when everything was blowing up on us, he said, "I can't take this anymore. I'm moving." And my grandmother goes, "I know, me neither. Where are we going?" And Victor's like, "He's your grandson." She's like, "Don't leave me with him." Anyways, so I don't know. So I'm going on. I've never once did I put together that alcohol or drugs was my problem. I always thought it was like if you did this or if you would just quit. Like in early on, it was if my parents would just get off my ass, I'd be okay. If the teachers would just leave me alone, I'd be okay. If Victor would just quit being such a wet blanket, like he just couldn't drink. It's like, oh my God, you know, and why do you got to be such a bummer, you know? And I think somewhere I truly believe that. I don't think I ever put together that. And so anyway, so 5 years before I got sober, Victor and Mamaw found this therapist. I don't know if she was a psychiatrist, whichever one can prescribe you drugs. And so, okay, psychiatrist. And so they found her. And so I went to her for my cocaine problem. And I'm there and I'm spending, like, I literally went to her 2 times a week. And those people that know me, they know how cheap I am. So I spent $80 twice a week to go visit with this lady and argue with her about religion and politics while I was high, you know. but the whole time I went there, like I never once snorted any cocaine, but I'm smoking pot and I'm drinking. And she suggested that I might not drink. I might look at the alcohol problem, and I'm like, whatever. And then she suggested that Victor, she said, you guys might not stay together. Like, I remember her saying that. And I thought, have you lost your mind? Like, the only reason I'm even here is to say this, you know, like if he's not going to stick around, like what are we doing, you know? And I remember she told him he might have a problem, and he got so pissed, like and like he's like, have you heard what a nightmare he is, and you want me to go get help, you know? Which I love that. Later on, he's in Al-Anon. he knows he's got a problem. So. One of God's little sweet jokes for him. So anyway, so fast forward, we go on. I stopped going to her because I'm all better, and then I remember he wanted me to get into treatment. I think it was like 2 years before I got sober, and it was right before I had gotten put on his insurance. It was right before they made like insurance available for same-sex couples, and so so before that we didn't have any insurance. He's like, you need to go into treatment. I'm like, oh my God, that'll cost more than my habit cost. Like that's just dumb. That that ain't make sense. And so then I get on his insurance. And come to find out, it's $100, for me to go into treatment. So that party kind of ended. And what I've been thinking about is literally 15 years ago this month, my life was unraveling. Like it was coming apart, and it was just about this time. I had filed bankruptcy. I was losing my motor home. Like, Mama's disgusted with me. My parents are disgusted with me. Victor's disgusted with me. And I just, I'm just not seeing that it's my drinking and my drugging. I'm just thinking I've got to maneuver this one more time. And I like once this bankruptcy goes through and get this albatross off of me, I can regroup, I get my money together, and then we can go again. And this time, it's going to be different. And I swear I believe that. And so then I get caught for the last time, and I can remember him saying, you got to do something. And so I went to Cy Creek, and I go and they evaluate me, and they said, you need to come in for inpatient stay. And I'm like, whoa, I'm much, much, much too busy for that. I said, well, do you have another option? And they did outpatient IOP. And so I went to IOP, and I love that Trey's here tonight. When I drove up, I thought that was him in the car, and I was like, oh my God, what, and then it was him. And the reason I say that is because his mother saved my life. She was the counselor that was my IOP counselor. And she spoke to me. I mean, I could hear her. For the first time, I heard her. She was a recovering drug addict, alcoholic, just like me. And she spoke to me. I can remember when I first got there, she said, okay, we're going to ask you, to tell a little bit about you. And I said, that's not going to happen. And she goes, and we're going to talk about God. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. And then 3 days later, and I'll never forget this, and 3 days later, we get a newcomer coming in. I'm saving his life, and I'm going on way too long, and she cuts me off, which she needed to, but I am outraged, and so we go downstairs to smoke, and I form a little coup, this is unacceptable. You have disrespected me, blah 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 blah. And so I leave, and I swear to God, I know I was backing my way out of AA. And somebody told her what was going on, and she called me, and she said, look, I did not mean to disrespect you. If you felt disrespected, come back tomorrow, and in front of the group, I will apologize to you. And, that just kind of took all the wind out of my sail. And I didn't need her to do that, but her just saying it, she knew who I was. And I'll forever be grateful for your mother. She saved my life. She got me connected in AA. And so I come into AA, I get hooked up to the, well, no, the first group I go to is Serenity in the Woodlands. And that was a little freaky, and nobody told me that when you first, say it's your first time, and they all talk at you and talk to you, and that was a little scary. And then we went to Champions. That was, and then I went to West Spring when it was over off of 2920 in this concrete building with holes underneath it. And then I went to Old Town Spring, and I'm thinking, oh, none of this is like for me. And then Marilyn, who was going to IOP, she said, I'm going to this group over here, the Cypresswood group. You should come. And so I came, and this was when we were across the street, and I showed up over there, and it felt, I don't know, it felt like home. It felt like home. I showed up, Steve was there, Jay was there, we felt safe. We would show up at night, every night, we were all three there, showing up, we had carpet. So we vacuum, we talk shit about the old timers. Made me feel good, and it felt really good. And I can remember we're both like, God, we must have been, I don't know, 3 months sober, 2 months sober. Steve's crazier than hell, and we go to Spirit of Houston. And it turns cold, and Steve didn't bring a jacket, and so I have a Frito-Lay jacket in my car, and he throws it on, and so we go in there, and Aggie and a bunch of the people from IOP, they've heard me talk about Victor, and that he works for Frito-Lay. And they all go in a costume. Oh, come here. And Steve is like, back then, Steve didn't want anybody near him. And these people are surrounded. He's like, what the hell? I thought he was going to lose his mind. That was fun. So anyway, so I don't know. So I start coming here. I start doing the things that you guys are telling me to do, and I can remember Nicole, like right when I think it was like the second or third time I came to a meeting, she's like, you got a sponsor? And I'm like, what's a sponsor? And she's like, you got to get a sponsor, you got to get it. And I'm like, okay. And the next day she goes, did you get a sponsor? I'm like, no. And then she hooked me up with Three Hawks, and what I know is he was perfect for me at the time. Like that was God. Looking back, that was God working in that, because he was Native American. He was just what I needed to hear to break that wall I had with all that baggage I brought in about organized religion. And he was perfect for what I needed at the time. And I went through the steps with him, and what happened for me was all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't know, 9 months sober, and what had owned me since I was 12 years old, I realized it didn't own me anymore. I was like, this is crazy. Like I don't get, I don't understand how that works, because I didn't know that I could be happy and be sober. Like, I really thought that I was going to be living my life stupid, boring, and glum, And what I love to share, and I did not share it, I kind of glossed over my drinking, but like at the end of my drinking, what it looked like was I would wake up in the morning, Victor would go to work, I would figure out how I was going to lie about what I'm doing for the day. I would go and I would drive the city drinking Canadian Mist, hot Canadian Mist, snorting cocaine, and then I would come home before he would get home and wait for him to get home. And as soon as I saw him pull in the drive, I would run and jump in the pool. Because if I was sweating, he knew I was like high. So if I was all wet, you couldn't tell me I was sweating. And so I would do that. He had a couple of signs, and I laugh and say, like he, the other thing was if I didn't eat, he was very suspicious. So he would come home after working 12 and 14 hours, and he would cook a 3-course meal and sit that shit right in front of me. Needless to say, I was willing to go to any length. I learned how to eat. Very high. So anyway, so I'm sober. I'm doing this thing with you guys. I can remember when I think it was in IOP, or it was in one of my, maybe the first 1 or 2 meetings I came to. What I heard was, if you're in a relationship and both of you aren't in recovery, you could grow apart. And so I went home and said, look, if this shit's gonna work for us, you gotta get your ass into Al-Anon. And he did, and like, big mistake. This is FYI. If you think you want him in Al-Anon, you might not. So, anyway, sometimes he's the only one working a program in our house. And so, but truthfully, I'm grateful because he got hooked up with a sponsor that let him talk about me 2 times, and then made him look at him. And that's what helped our relationship, because it wasn't always about me anymore, and in a bad way. And so, and I'm grateful that in here I've surrounded myself with people that keep the focus on me and not on outside people. And so I don't know. So I'm going along. I'm about a year sober, and I can tell that my sponsor's like a little disconnected, like I'm not feeling it like I was before. So I switched sponsors. I get Nicole as a sponsor, and that lasted for just a little while. We were meant to be friends, not sponsors. I'm hard to work with. I'll be the first to say that. But what I learned in that time was not drinking and not working a program can cause some big problems. And my first sponsor took a gun and ate a bullet, and that was that. And so I know there's worse things than drinking in this program if you're not working the program. And so I don't want to do that either. And so then all of a sudden I got Philip, and a lot of y'all know Philip. I got Philip as a sponsor, and what I will say is I love Philip. Philip got me into service. He got me into service. He got me into going to prisons. Like he was the one that said, "Let's go. We're going to go here." And I'm like, "Go to prison? Like, I've never been to prison. I'm not a criminal like you guys." And he said, "You just come on and come with us and do what we do." And we would go down, and it was literally from like 3:30 in the afternoon, and I wouldn't get home till 10 o'clock at night. And it was every week. We would go down there, we'd go out to dinner, and we would fellowship, and I would go there, and I would hear these guys. And what I came to know is that I'd done everything they had done. I just didn't get caught. And I was just like them. I wasn't different. And Philip was the one that in here said, for me to be Ron alcoholic, not Ron gay alcoholic, not Ron special alcoholic. I still want to be special, but just be Ron alcoholic. If I'm a little different than you, then I don't think I have to do everything you guys do. And I don't want to be that. I want to be the same as y'all. And so so I'm working with Philip, and we start. I don't know. So my grandmother lives with us. She's lived with us for 18 years. She died when she was 93, and I struggled like with her doctors. Like I had the most growth because Like, they would do stuff that would like very much irritate me, and because I know today it was like lack of control, but I would go and they would do stuff, and what would happen is, like from the get-go, like I would take her to them, going to the same doctor for years, and they'd always say, "And your mother," or they would talk to my grandmother and say, "And your son," and I said, "No, I'm her grandson," and I would correct them. But then one time they gave her the wrong meds, they made her very sick, and so I went in and they said, "And your mother," and I said, "See, that's our problem, is you guys don't pay attention." I said, "We've been through this for years," and I just leaned into them because I was very scared because I thought they were going to kill my grandmother, And it wasn't the nurse's fault, but I literally chewed her out, and I was like super, super ugly. What my biggest problem is I would come to that 6:30 meeting, and I talked too much, and so I said what I said, and I felt like I was justified in what I did, And every time I do something, I feel like I'm justified in doing it. And I can remember after the meeting, Kyle said, "Angel, come here." And I'm like, "Ooh," and she's like, "You need to clean that up." And I'm like, "You're not my sponsor. You don't get to tell me what to do." But that didn't stop her. And so every day for like 2 weeks, she'd say, "Have you cleaned that up?" "Nope." And she goes, "Okay, tomorrow you're going to," and she goes, "And I'm going to give you an out. You get to call them and do it on the phone." So I think I'd wore her down too, and I thought, perfect, because every time I call them, they never answer, So I can leave that on a voicemail, easy schmeezy. So anyway, so I call and they answer, and I said, "Yeah, this is Ron Tyler, my grandmother Irma Eubanks. You probably don't know me, but there was a nurse there," and they said, "Oh, we know who you are, and hold on, hold that thought." And so the nurse gets on the phone, and I said, "Look," "I know that I want to apologize for what I said to you," and I made the amends, and I said, that I was just scared. You don't deserve to be talked that way. And I'm sorry." And she said, she said, "I've been doing this for 20-something years." She said, "I've had lots of people talk to me the way you've talked to me, but I've never had anybody call and apologize." And what was amazing about that is 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, we had to go up there. I'd take her for one of her appointments. I could look that nurse in the eye. I wasn't ashamed to be there. Like, that's the freedom it gave me that I never knew. Because before, I would always get undressed in front of anybody, and take my clothes off, and then I just wouldn't go around you anymore. Like, I'd tell you how I felt, and then I would just break that off. And so that was a good lesson to learn. So I'm 4.5 years sober. My grandmother so she had this diverticulitis, and so what the doctor said is, like, we can probably save just a little bit of her intestine, and so let's do the surgery. She's 92, and she's like on the fence, but she literally would do anything that I would ask her to do. And what was happening is for 4 or 5 years, once a year she would bleed out, and because of this, and I'd have to take her to the hospital. They'd fill her full of blood, and then she'd rehabilitate. She'd come back home, she'd be good for a while, and then it would happen again. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, we can fix that. And so we go in, she goes and has the surgery. They can't save any of it, and she has to have a colostomy bag. And what happens is, as soon as she comes home, as soon as she sees that, she loses the will to live. So she is like, she couldn't even look at it. And so she never touched it. I changed it. And for 6 months, she didn't want to try. She didn't want to try, but I was in it for the long haul. You know, I'm in it, and so she's in the house. I'm taking care of her, and what I'm doing is for a little while, I'm asking God to make her better, and she's not getting better. And I'm asking God to make her better, and she's not getting better, and this sucks. And I will tell you, that's probably the only time since I've been sober that I really felt like drinking. And it wasn't like it was like on me, but it was there. And I wasn't sharing about it. And I'd always been told, take what's up here, share it in the rooms of AA, God can heal it. And I was not sharing that. And you guys would ask me, how's it going? I'm fine. And I would show up and I would go there. And we had her, so she had this bed and her chair, and I had this hoist, and I would hoist her in it, and we had this baby monitor. And I can remember one night, because Victor would sit in there, and Victor's a saint, you know, he's like the opposite of me, and as most of y'all know. And so anyway, so we're doing it, and I said, okay, we're going to bed, Mama. Good night. And she goes, I want to go to my chair. And I said, okay, but we're going to bed. I said, if you go to the chair, you're in it till the morning. So we wake up at 4. I'm not coming back down here. Do not call me. I'm not. Move me to the chair. And I'm like, okay. So I move her to the chair. We go upstairs and we're talking. And all of a sudden, over that baby monitor, we hear, Victor. And we both just started laughing. And I'm like, well, she's calling you. Go put her in the bed. So anyway, so we went, and it was a Monday night. I show up here, and I shared that I felt like drinking. And once I shared that, it went away. Like it just took the power from me. And then she. Like I can remember I was sitting there and I was taking care of her, and I was in my office and I just fed her, and then she was kind of quiet, and I was like, well, that's weird. And so I go in there and she had stroked out, and so she's sitting there and she stroked, and so hospice is there, and I gotta say, right before hospice, we had hospice come, and they were wanting me to give her all this medicine, and when I would give her the medicine like they prescribed it, she wasn't my mama. And so I was adjusting the meds like I wanted it, you know, because she was lucid and she was happy. But then once she stroked out and she couldn't talk, I couldn't, I just didn't, it was weird. And so anyway, so I give their medicine the way they wanted, and it took her about 7 days to die, and it was awful, and it was horrible. And what I knew was that I could drink, and Victor would forgive me. I knew that because he knew how much she meant to me. I'd never had anybody die in my life. Now the person that was the closest to me has just died. I knew that I could get away with it, and when I shared that Monday, like I had no desire. And what I knew from that point on is that I was doing this for me. That I was staying sober because I wanted to stay sober. It wasn't because I was wanting to save a relationship. It wasn't for any other reason than I wanted to stay sober. And that was, I don't know, that was kind of cool. And so during that time, a lot of y'all know Gabriel. He had come in my life. He was one of those that I was going to save. That was back then when I would, like he said I was going to be a sponsor. He's going to get sober. And so I'm chasing him around. And I can remember we go to bury my grandmother up in the Panhandle. And Nicole told him, do not call him. He is burying his grandmother. Leave him alone. Quit being so selfish. And he would tell Nicole, okay, I won't. And then he would call me. And so I'm sitting there trying to bury my grandmother, and Gabriel's talking about girl problems in his life. But what I know looking back was he was that distraction I needed during that whole time. Like God's timing and all this. And I can't see that when I'm going through it. But looking back, I could see that's just what I needed. I needed somebody so full of themselves that they didn't care. Oh, your grandmother's dying. That's sad. But hey, what about me? I oddly get that. And so, anyway, so needless to say, I couldn't keep Gabriel sober. He had to do the steps with Jay, and Jay got him sober, which is a little resentment there for me. And because I had worked really hard to keep him sober, and so I don't know. So I'm going along, and I don't know what were we? 2010.
Resentment went away.
Yeah, no. It came back. No, we had in 2010 we had the international, and somebody had, it was Morgan's mom. What's her name? Elizabeth. She had bought extra rooms, and she had an extra room, and it was one room with 2 full beds. And I'm like, Jay, we gotta go. Everybody says this is amazing. It's in San Antonio. We can drive it. What the hell? And so Jay and me and Joe Sullivan and Joe Chamberlain, we're all staying in the same room. And me and Jay, that's when we started our pact together that we sleep together in the same bed. My little gift to Jay's sobriety. So anyways, but what I know is we went to that convention, and it was amazing. There was so many people. I mean, it was amazing. There were so many people. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's happy. The lines are awful, but nobody's mad. We're all having a great time, and then we stand around and everybody does the Lord's Prayer at the end of that, and that was just like life changing for me. So then fast forward, big mistake, 2015. I feel like I need to pay that back because somebody had bought a bunch of rooms, and that extra room had given us that experience. So I went online and I reserved a bunch of rooms and rented a bus. and big mistake. But it was fun. So we had 50 of us go, which the honest truth is it was incredible. I had a great time. I reserved a bunch of rooms. We rented a bus. People all got to go. The club paid for a bunch of people. It was the only way a lot of people would have got to go to Atlanta. The bus was fun, kind of. We went up there. I did really well till the last
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Somebody said something. I felt like I had to respond. I had Jay and them behind me, and I heard one of them go, "Oh no," and I went crazy, and I lost my mind, and I used a whole bunch of, as Joy would say, but what I love about AA is we got off the bus. And the whole time we had been going, like the bus driver's like, "Who is this guy?" Because I'm up and down the aisle, like Mr. Social, like anybody needs something, happy-go-lucky, and then all of a sudden he sees me lose my mind, and he's like, "Wow," and everybody else that's on the bus is like, "Wow," and so we get up to our room and. Jay's in the room, Barrage, and Jay goes, "Well, let's look at step 10. And I'm like, and then Barrage looks at me and says, "We love you, bro, but you're gonna have to clean that shit up." and so I said, "I know, I will. I'll do it at some point, you know." And I'm thinking, 80,000 people. What's the chance I'm gonna see him, And as like God is funny like that. So the very next morning. Because I said, no, I'm not going to call him. I need to do it face to face. Thinking that'll buy me some time. And so the next morning, we're standing in line registering, and there he is. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so I go up, I clean that up, and and it was good. It was good. It was what I needed because it wasn't on my mind the rest of the convention. We did it. I was glad I did it. I'll never do it again. Renting the bus. But I was glad I did it. And so we did that. What was I gonna say? I don't know. My life is incredible today because of AA and you people. Like I've got a life that I never dreamed of. I struggle with a relationship with my dad and what you guys like. I remember when I was early sober, I had drawn a hard line in the sand, and I said, look. I'll meet you halfway, but I'm not stepping 1 foot over that halfway mark. And what you guys told me in this room is that if I wanted a relationship with my dad, to have a relationship with my dad and go all the way. And so what I did was, because I talk to my mother every week, and when my dad gets on the phone, it's like, and so what I did is I started asking to talk to him, and then and the conversation would last maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, and how are you? I'm good. How's the weather? And then I said, I love you, and he'd go, huh? And then hang up. And then the next week I said, I love you. And then, and that went on for, I don't know, maybe a month or so. And then he said, I love you back. And then when I would see him in person, I'd go up and give him a hug, and he'd be like that. And I'd say, I love you, Dad. And then he would, and I love you. And now, like, what happened is we started developing a relationship. Like, just what you guys said. Like, by me going all the way, it started softening that, and everything. I don't know, kind of going good. And then this last year, I got hung up on a few ideas, and I drew some lines in the sand again, and I started fighting with my family, and it wasn't like physical fight. I mean, like, it wasn't talking to me. It was just like, you're dead to me, I'm I don't have to put up with this shit, and so I'm slowly like cutting them out of my life, and it doesn't feel good, and I don't want to be that way, and so I have to relook at that, and I have to start taking some actions again, and be the person that God wants me to be, no matter what. And what I didn't talk about was about 5 years ago, I got Julian as a sponsor, and he's moved away 2 years ago, and it's been so hard for me to try to reconnect with someone else, because like, he just, like, for me, he had that ability to, like, because I'm not a crier kind of guy. I'm just not. And when I sat down with him the very first time at my kitchen table, we started talking, and oh my God, I started crying like a little baby. And I'm like, what are you doing to me? Like, this is not me. Stop this. But he had this ability, like, he never wavers on the truth, but he does it in a loving, kind way. He tells me, he could tell me what I needed to hear, and he was the one that would tell me, you gotta be the person God wants you to be, no matter what. And that means no matter what. And I always have conditions on how I act, and it's difficult. And so this last year, so I start working on it. I start trying to get back close to my dad, and I've had this hard line with my brother. Me and my brother have, we're close in age, we're totally opposite, and all of a sudden, I start getting this relationship back, and Danny has a bypass, like triple bypass, double bypass.
It was horrible.
It was horrible, right. And my dad is like, he has no energy. He's going around, and I'm talking to him, and I said, look, maybe you need to get checked. I said, a buddy of mine had this, and he was blocked, and he said, that's what he didn't have any. He's describing just what you're describing. And my mom called me 2 days later. She goes, I don't know what you told your dad, but he's going to the doctor, and he's gonna get checked. And he went to the doctor, and he was 80% blocked. And so me and my brother are gonna go take him, because they live in this little podunk town, and so they have to go to Lubbock to get it done. And so me and my brother are going to do this. And what I was told was my brother was gonna fly in to Lubbock and rent a car or stay there. And my brother calls me and says, hey, are you coming through Dallas? Maybe you could just pick me up. and I'm just like, like 8 hours with my brother, like nothing good can come out of this. But what I said was, yeah, sure, I'd be glad to. And so I pick him up, and we go, and we take my dad, and the surgery, the thing goes well, and we get him back home, and the whole time I'm definitely talking to Kyle, and I'm praying, and I want to be a different person. I don't want to be that person. And my brother, for about 15 years, like, he got religion, and he says this one thing to me that burns my ass up. And what he says is, we all sin, and everyone's sin is the same in the eyes of the Lord. And what I know he means burns my butt up. And so we're driving back, and we're talking, and I'm telling him that I'm sad that we don't have a closer relationship. His two kids have a close relationship. I wish it was different. I said, I know it's not. I wish it was. And and he cries, I cry a little bit, and but then he says it. He says, we all sin, and all sins. And what happened, and I got to believe it's because I was praying, I was trying to be different, and for the first time in 15 years, what popped in my head, after I initially got irritated, but what popped in my head was, that is the most loving thing that he thinks he can say to me. That he really is not saying it the way I'm taking it. Like, he does not mean it as this way I'm taking it. And that was like, I'm like, whoa, where the hell did that come from? But being able to look at that different, all of a sudden, we didn't have that, because what would happen is he would say that, it would irritate me. We're brothers. I know how to irritate him. I would precipitate, and then, and then we were in a fight, and nothing ever good comes out of that. And so I didn't have to act like that anymore, and it changed mine and his relationship. This has just recently happened. I don't know how, You know, I know that change depends on me, and as most of y'all know, we got a 50-50 chance on that one, if I'm gonna keep this one going. But, what it allowed us to do was we are having this party for my mom's 80th birthday in 3 weeks. We are having the party for my parents' 62nd anniversary. We're doing it together. We're planning it. Like, that is a direct result of coming in here and doing what you guys say to do. Being the person God wants me to be no matter what. And I couldn't have done that without you guys, you know. And so what I say, and I believe it, is I came in here thinking that drinking was my problem, and it was the easiest thing I've done. Like, not drinking is the easiest thing I've done, and you guys have given me a life. You've given me the ability to be the son I wanted to be, the grandson I wanted to be, the partner I want to be, the friend I want to be. Like, you've given me that. The byproduct of following you around, I don't drink, I don't drug, and I have the chance to be the person that I've always really wanted to be, where I get along with everybody. I just didn't know how to do it. That's it. I think I did it.